What's up, y'all? Welcome to High Noon Racing. Under this torn cover is our 98 Firebird Scoots. It's our Project F-body. Now, we named this thing Scoots because the idea is it's gonna scoot. Good morning. Alright guys, I know I haven't posted in a little bit. I got came down with something, got sick, so kind of was chilling in bed all weekend last weekend. And I didn't really want to post nothing unless it was some good progress, and I did have some good progress, so we'll go ahead and show you what that is now, and then we'll watch how that happened. But the engine is in. The trick chassis made up some motor mounts for me and they work. So engine's in. I'm gonna redo a few things today and throw a tune back on it, throw a better tune on it. You know, I did some fine tuning on the laptop with these bad boys right here, and we'll see if we can get it to idle. Need to, idle for a little bit there. We need to situate this guy. This is a 4-row intercooler for a Honda. Being that size is, kind of important in the engine bay. We don't need a whole lot of cooling, so that probably wouldn't support street driving. Hell, it might, I don't know, but we're gonna squeeze that off in here, so I gotta figure out where I wanna put it, that it won't interfere with other things, and I'm gonna move some stuff around. So right now I got like ghetto wiring going on, just for testing and stuff. I got some terminal bulkheads we're gonna install and just clean up the routing of everything in here and get it where I really want it. I'm gonna move that catch can either back here or back there, and move some stuff around. Like all my biz reference stuff is right here right now. I don't like that. I'm gonna move that somewhere a little bit cleaner so I don't have wires jumping across. Just want to try and make it as clean as possible wiring wise on the top of this. This is a TBSS intake. We won't be with that forever. Eventually we will, when we trip and hit the lottery, trip, fall, and somehow hit the lottery, what we'll do is we'll get a Holley high-rise intake, because they look sick. And I kind of dig the way I set up the fuel pressure regulator, the filter. It just kind of looks mean and clean, so I'm really digging the way I set that up. I got it 8AN looped back straight into the fuel rail there, so it's 8AN all the way. I had to modify the cheap Amazon tank I got. I'll show you that in a second. I want to explain something real quick. So these forward-facing headers, this is just a cheap pipe I had laying around, just cheap galvanized exhaust pipe. So I welded a bung on it just so I'd have a wideband so the Holley can actually work. So that's why there's big ugly pipe there and nothing on this side. That's just so the engine can run. And if I can get that radiator hooked up today, and I just went to the store, O'Reilly's, and I grabbed the hose that I would need for it, and I only got 6 foot because it's $12 and something cents a foot, so it was $80 just to get the damn hoses. I should have just got the Chinesium off eBay, but when you're trying to get things done when you got the time to get them done, like on a weekend or whatever, like today, those are the things you do. So let's take a look at this fuel tank and the modifications I've been doing. God dang, I still ain't 100% yet. Still feeling like crap. But yeah, we gave her a little shaker can job there because my TIG welds on steel are pretty damn beautiful. My TIG welds on aluminum, they ain't quite there yet. They will definitely seal up and hold, but I cut off the 10AN fittings in those. One, because it's just a fitting. There's nothing on the backside. I needed something on the backside. For this guy, I needed the dual 6ANY to, I don't know where all that liquid came from, but there's that. There's that dual 6AN. It ain't gonna want to focus. Dual 6ANY into the 8AN that goes to our 8AN feed. And then we got the 6AN return, and I just cut it off and welded a 6AN fitting onto it so that we could shove everything in the tank. Now this does have a breather cap on it right there. So for right now, I'm not really worried about this tank expanding and getting angry and stuff like that. So for now, that'll do. I'm not gonna mount it either because I don't know where I'm gonna go with this tank or what I'm gonna do with this tank. I ran the power wire straight through where the sending unit was. I just drilled it out a little bit more to squeeze them through and RTV'd them in. I started cleaning up wiring and getting it all bunched up and together. The battery I took off and put on a battery tender so that it would have the maximum charge possible. And up front, I started 3D designing and 3D printing a panel to hold the switches in. Came up with a sick design. It fits pretty good. I'm gonna have to scale it down just a touch, and I might have to reprint it to make it thicker so that it's stronger. And the holes are gonna be hard to pick up. So like the mounting positions are gonna be that top right hole there and the bottom hole below it. Not the ones with the copper plates either. I want just to put a washer and nut on it to hold the plate in. Sitting here holding up the thing because the gas struts randomly decided that they were no longer going to work, which is like super ironic because they worked for the longest time and then they were just like, I'm not working no more. So yeah, starting to kind of get everything cleaned up and get it the way I really want it. And yeah, transmission is in work right now. I'm waiting on the rear reverse band to show up, and once I get that, I'll be able to kind of do some measurements and figure out why it burned up to begin with. Now this was a 4x4 transmission because it was in our truck, but yeah, we got her all tore down, so she's just down to a shell. You know, nice clean looking shell half of the valve body. And anyways, we started working on getting a different tail housing on there for the 2-wheel drive conversion, and we're gonna have to put 2-wheel drive output shaft on there. There's the old valve body. New valve body with the trans brake is in there. And we started doing the accumulator stuff and measuring, and discovered some issues. So I'm wondering, I don't know where I put it. That's our torque converter. That's an FTI torque converter. I'm looking around and I don't see our POS reverse band. There it is. It was in the trans. Alright, so I was checking servo clearance, and you know, if you ever got questions on transmissions, they got entire books you can print. Like literally books on every little detail of them. So, you know, might want to try that. Instead of asking somebody, you just buy the book. So this thing, clearly, it's not how it's supposed to look. And this was the culprit making the heat and creating all the friction material in the oil. So this reverse band is junk. Now, lucky for me, you can get a new one for like 40 or 50 bucks. But, you know, still sucks because it's 40 or 50 bucks you could have spent on something else. So, gotta order a new one of those. And, yeah. With the accumulator piston, the way it engages the rear reverse band, if it's too loose, it'll burn up. If it's too tight, it'll burn up. So you got to be in like this tolerance, this window. So it must not have been in that window. I have an idea of why it may not have been in that window, because there was a big spring in there that, one, I'm not sure if it was even supposed to be in there. It probably was, but two, it's an aftermarket spring. It may have been too much. So it may have been, because it was so strong, it may have been actually keeping that piston from being able to press down all the way, so that would cause slippage. I don't know, because that transmission never slipped after I rebuilt it. That thing was gangster. Check this out. I'll show you a video of this thing. This was in my crew cab Silverado, turbo Silverado. Check this out. Yeah, you can see the dash mat kicking back every shift as it goes down the street. Excuse me, as it goes down the street. So yeah, that thing didn't slip, but that doesn't mean that that thing wasn't slipping and creating heat, and it was just power was making up for it, you know? So either way, once that is solved, we'll be throwing the trans brake in there, and then once that is done and reassembled and ready to go back in, we'll put it in here and we'll measure it for a drive shaft. Now, the most hilarious thing in the world is I am still waiting on rear axles. Long story, I really don't want to talk about it because there's no way for me to tell if it's the person that I ordered them through or if it's actually strange engineering just taking their sweet ass time. But either way, hopefully, once we get the rear axles, we can do the rear end, and then this thing, I'll be able to measure for a drive shaft, get a drive shaft, and start actually driving this unit. All right, let's do some work. All right, so relocated catch can to back there. This is where I wanted it. Can still get to the drain just by going under here. Just let it hit the frame rail and drain out or whatever. Put a bucket under there, do what I gotta do. Got my spark plug protectors. They just came in, so I threw those on so we're not melting plug wires immediately. And yeah, I like the way that cleaned up this side over here. And let's see what else I did. I moved the boost reference to right there for all the references. So you got your boost reference for your fuel pressure regulator, boost reference off the intake, because I want to know what the boost is right here, not at the turbo. And yeah, she's looking a lot cleaner. So yeah, temporary. When I get my bulkhead fittings for the positive and ground, I'll be doing this all neatly and putting those down here somewhere. Still gotta do the brakes, still got room for that. And yeah, so I ain't got a way to spin the water pump, even if I do install the radiator. Just thought of that, but I do want to now work on getting the radiator up in there somewhere or front and center. Just gonna have to get creative with where I put the turbo. Just not seeing a way around it. Alright, fuel's on. Check and make sure I ain't got any massive fuel leaks going on. I definitely hear that fuel. I'm just hoping it ain't filling up cylinders. We're gonna find out though. Wait a minute. I'm forgetting something. Alright. Kind of helps when you have the main power in. Okay, let's see. Let's turn on the fuel. Give this a crank. Fuel pressure looks good. 40 something. Just fires up and dies. Alright. I changed it from a 5-bar to a 4-bar map sensor, seeing if that would help. Okay, so let me turn it back to 5-bar map sensor. Alright, let's try this again. There we go. That's a much better air-fuel ratio. I'm just kidding. Instantly went sky high. Well, for now, this one's above my pay grade. And, you know, I don't want to sit here doing this a million times, pissing off the neighbors, but so what's next? We got to get another oil pan. We got to try to get an F-body oil pan so it'll clear. I don't know if I showed that, but right now the oil pan will not clear the steering rack mount, so I just made a little mount temporarily just so I can get it around the yard and whatnot. And after I do that, I'm going to have to pull out the engine bolts, hoist the engine up just enough to get the pan off and swap the pans. Oh, you best believe I'm saving that oil. Oh man, I ain't fixing to drop new oil in there for that reason. After that, we'll complete the transmission. Once it's finally bolted in there with the correct oil pan and everything, we'll slap the tranny in. Hopefully by then, when the transmission is done and we slap it in, we will finally have the rear axle so we can completely assemble the rear end, install it, and do all the rear suspension, and then brakes, and then measure and order a drive shaft, and we will be driving this thing. But until then, we're getting closer and closer. Let me show you how I mounted the radiator, the things I don't like, and the things I'm going to change. Alright, so I got to make a little top mount bracket for this guy. Put she down in there. I do not like this expensive ass hose I got. Just because the bottom one I'm okay with because it's just a nice straight shot. But I'm going to have to do something about this because I just don't like it. But all in all, I do like the way I've cleaned up the engine bay. And I'm happy with that. Next, tomorrow I'll be doing the power and ground and isolating it, making it look all nice. And yep. Then lastly will be alternator bracket for the alternator. Throw the belt on, then we'll be able to have a water pump. And yep, we're just chipping away at her slowly but surely. Then we'll hang the turbo, do all the turbo piping, and then we'll go do some hits.